Hello, welcome back to Blissfully Bloom. I have a special guest here with me today, Vanessa Petch. Welcome, Vanessa.
Hi, Victoria. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here with me. Now, my first question I have for you is, what is one powerful lesson you have learned that has changed your life?
Oh my God, I was trying to picture one or two things that have really changed my life in the last few years that I've been really on this wellness journey. And I think one of them, and we've probably heard it so many times, is you are what you eat. And really when I
Mm.
started to implement that quote that I was hearing, like you are what you eat, like what does that mean? Everything kind of changed for me. I felt like I usually ate just kind of what I was feeling like, or if something was on the counter or I kind of wanted to eat it, I'd go ahead and eat it. And once I realized that, I always say like humans are not just humans, we're bacteria, and we are feeding our
Mm.
bacteria every single day. And we're either feeding our good bacteria or we're feeding our bad bacteria. And every time we eat something, I always now question myself, like, who am I feeding when I put this in my mouth? And a lot of the times, we tend with the Western culture, it's a lot of the bad bacteria that we're feeding, like artificial
Mhm.
colors and sweeteners and sugars, overdose of dairy and gluten in our diet. So when I realized that all those things kind of played a part with my brain fog or my mood swings or my cravings or the bloating that I was having, I started to realize, okay, Vanessa, like every time you're going to eat something or every time you buy something, how are you going to react to this, right? Like
Mm.
how will this food help you? Are you feeding that good bacteria? And that's kind of really changed my whole aspect on what I eat and how I go throughout the day consuming the foods that I eat now.
Wow. Well, I love that too, because sometimes I even go through the pantry. I'm like, okay, what is going to actually make me feel good rather than have my stomach be upset? My stomach is really, really sensitive to a lot of
Mhm.
things. And sometimes I feel like I don't think before I eat sometimes. Like, I don't really think and reflect, okay, like, how is this going to make me feel afterwards? Is this going to be beneficial?
Yeah, and I've even realized, like, because I lost my taste and smell from COVID, and I still don't have it back after 3 weeks. And I've realized by
Oh,
losing those two senses how how much I was just eating because I wanted to eat, or it was like a comfort to me, than really eating and like tasting the foods. I was just inhaling everything, and I never sat down. So I'm like, whenever I get my taste back, I cannot wait just to sit down and like process my food and enjoy it, than just like eating whatever we have access to.
yes. Oh, and I think, isn't it your sense of smell is something along the lines of 90 or 80% of your taste?
Yeah.
So, my next question that I have for you is, could you share a bit about your own wellness journey?
Mm. Yeah, so I think it goes back all the way until I was probably like 4 or 5. I've always been in sports. My parents always enrolled us in things. We've always had like home cooked meals. We always had this good kind of wellness routine around us. And it was really only after university when I stopped playing all the sports or competitive sports. I was living on my own, right? So I was really struggling with food and exercise to the point where I would eat very little, but exercise all the time. Or I would kind of eat a lot and then kind of cure it by going to the gym and working out crazy hours. And that really shifted my mindset on like, I was such in a habit of, working out and eating. I never had the time to process, am I fueling my body in enough ways? And I think that's something that I try to bring into my teaching career, is showing people the importance of both and not just focusing so much on the other. So my whole wellness journey, I guess, started kind of at like my lowest point in my wellness journey. I think that's something that happens to a
Mhm.
lot of us, is at our lowest point, we have something we can teach on or share on. And that was about 4 years ago. I was suddenly always bloating, like painful bloating. Like sometimes I couldn't go to classes. I would always wear baggy shirts because I would bloat after everything that I put in my mouth. And I was going in and out of appointments, blood tests, doctors, ultrasounds, everything you can name, and nothing was really helping me. They always said like they either wanted to put me on medication or they were just like, no, you're fine. And I was just getting
Mm.
so aggravated and annoyed. And that's kind of when I came across gut health, which I talk about a few times through my social media, or a lot through my social media, because that's really something that's really brought all my health journey and my wellness journey together. And it was a program that really changed my life and really started to share with me, you are what you eat, whatever you consume, you become, and helped me so much with my bloating. And that's kind of something that I like to use on my pages now, is showing other people. And I realized every woman that I talk to, we all have some sort of digestion, bloating issue that's either food or stress or anxiety
Mhm.
related. And it's not something that can be just cured by a pill or just the doctors telling us that there's nothing wrong with us. Like, we really have to focus on the root cause. And for me, I believe that all comes across in gut health. And yeah, that's kind of where it all stemmed from. So a long journey of just trying to figure everything out.
I'm curious, could you share a little bit more about gut health?
So I'm like an elementary school teacher. So I always have these kind of like pictures that I try to imagine people's heads. So I always have like people picture a bathtub in their head. So, when we fill up the bathtub and then we go to drain it, the water just like flows back in the drain and it gets drained. But imagine like your bathtub clogged drain, your water overflows back into the tub, right? It doesn't really go down.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like our gut. So the products that we put on our body, the foods that we eat, the stress, anxiety that we have on our body, that's what clogs our drain or clogs our gut. And those toxins cannot be exited our body. So they're thrown back into our body. And those toxins are what creates brain fog, cravings, bloating, all of these things. And I can't remember which paper I was reading it from, but our body holds on. So if our gut can't drain itself like the bathtub, we actually
Mhm.
hold on to about 8 to 12 pounds of toxic sludge from this over kind of just it can't get exited from our body, and it's just holding on to that. So when people are like, oh, I'm always tired, I'm always this, yes, 4, 5, 6 cups of coffees will keep you up, but you're not really addressing the root problem, which is your gut is just holding on to all this toxicity that it has no idea what to do with, and it's just really exhausted.
Wow. And it's
Yeah.
almost, if you're not really tackling the root cause, it's only going to bubble up within and only
Mhm.
cause more bacteria to accumulate down there in your gut. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, and it can go both ways. It can go, I've seen a lot of people have trouble losing weight with their gut health. Like they could be, I know where we talk about diets and stuff. They've been on every diet. They, restrict them from everything and they still can't lose weight. But I've also seen people, they can't lose weight because their gut's so like full of toxins that their body's like, I don't know what to process. But I've also, when people
Yeah.
take control of their gut, I've seen them put on weight if that's something that they wanted to. A lot of people, they want to go to the gym, they want to put on weight, but they can't. But I've also seen a lot of people lose weight just by addressing their gut and get rid of those toxins without increased exercise or crazy dieting. Like it's really wild
Mhm.
what how much potential our gut has to our whole well-being and mindset as well.
I started getting on as probiotics. My mom just threw it out there like, hey, if you are experiencing a lot of gut issues, because I feel like my whole life I have, not to be, I don't want to throw too TMI out there, but things like a lot of bloating, as well as you were saying.
Mhm.
And she was like, maybe this will help if you add in more good bacteria, because I know that that's what
Yeah,
probiotics are, right?
yeah.
A new little supplement that I added in to my
Those are
wellness.
huge. And like
Mhm.
a lot of people don't realize, and there's also that side of like, oh, I don't want to take supplements. I get it in my foods, but there you have to eat a lot of food to get certain supplements to the right rank in your body. And for pre and probiotics, it's those little things that you do every single day, and it's something that any person can do. Any busy, not busy, mom, dad, anyone could just add in the routine, and it literally can help so much.
Mhm. And I did see a difference for sure. I was like, man, there's something going on here with these pills.
Yeah.
For sure. And so I would love to know, what is your own definition of wellness and why should listeners really understand the importance of it?
So for wellness for me, at first, when I started my wellness journey, I thought it was like avocado toast, Buddha bowls, all these kind of things, food related. But now that I've been on my wellness journey for almost 4 years now, I realize it's a bunch of things. And it comes to mindset, it comes to gut health, it comes to self-care, and it also has to deal with, keeping our anxiety and stress intact as well. And I
Mhm.
mentioned stress and anxiety a lot because it is 2022. A lot of people have things on their plate, and that's something that can really harm our wellness and our gut health as well. But I say that because our body is pretty much a machine, or even our brain is a machine, and it's wired to really keep us into our comfort zone, and it's wired so we follow along in our habits. So it's very hard for us to start a wellness journey. You know, how many people, get gym memberships to the gym in January, and then it's packed January, February, and there's no one left in March because everyone's kind of given up. And that's because our wellness really has to do about our habits and how we go throughout each day. Just like that probiotic that you're taking, that's a new habit that you're adding to your routine. So wellness to me is kind of all of that mushed together. It's doing what you said you were going to do long after that feeling is gone. So I always say it's you versus you. And wellness, I'm thinking of Easter because we're recording this at Easter time, but I've eaten a lot of chocolate, and even that old habit of mine, like, oh, starting tomorrow, I'm not going to eat chocolate. I'm going to, walk every single day. And those are two important things. We shouldn't be consuming as much chocolate as we do, and we should be walking and exercising every single day. But how many of
Mhm.
us will actually take that initiative and actually do it? So it's as important wellness of going to the gym and eating healthy, but wellness is also mindset. It's also focusing on our self-care and saying those things that we said we were going to do long after the feeling is gone. I think that's my definition of wellness as like a whole, that whole like body mind connection.
Yes, I love that you're not like separating it, because a lot of times
Yeah.
it's like, okay, we go to the eye doctor, we go to our
Mhm.
physical doctor, or yeah, I guess you would call it physical doctor,
Yeah.
like your regular general
Regular.
doctor, and then you go to the woman's doctor. It's all these like separate doctors, so
Mhm.
it can stem from, okay, since these are separated, then all of them are separated. Like my woman's health is separated from my cardiovascular health, but like all in all, like we are all one, we're living in one body, so that means
It's
like it's
one.
all integrated. You have to focus
Mhm.
in on, pretty much everything is important, it's not just one over the other.
Yeah, like, cause like, if you don't have the mindset of becoming the best version of yourself every single day, then you're not gonna go to the gym and you're not gonna eat healthy because you don't really have that respect for, who you're becoming. But and then if you eat well, but no, you need the mindset, because even if you eat well and you go to the gym, you obviously have that good mindset to get you there. So it really goes over your mindset, and your mindset's not gonna change like that. Like the amount of podcasts I listen to, books I read, people I'm at their feet just like taking all their information, and it all comes around that, and that leads to, I think, a better wellness aspect in your life.
Yes, yes, for sure. Because then if you are, I guess, planning on starting a new lifestyle, really changing
Yeah.
what you eat, changing how you're exercising, but then in your mind you're like, oh, I can't do this. Like your beliefs are around, I don't deserve this, or
Mm.
I don't think I can do this because I failed in the past, and you're still focusing on, I'm a
Yeah.
failure, then that's going to be the back driver of all of your actions whenever you're trying to change those things.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah. So, what do you think about labels? So, labeling, maybe you're labeling a cookie as good or bad. How can we start to move away from this labeled thinking?
Hmm. And yeah, that's something on my wellness journey, was something I was obsessed with before, was just like checking the labels, how much carbs, how much sugar. And I think that's all important. But I think, and in this kind of talk, I want to talk about like consumer versus, the consumer. Like we as people, we're being sold to every single day. And the
Mhm.
companies or corporations do such a good job in telling humans that they should count calories, not ingredients. So for me, when I'm looking at a label, I'm not necessarily, yes, I'm looking at the sugar and stuff, but for me, something's not good or bad unless I look at the ingredients, because something can be 90 calories for 3 cookies, but you look in their ingredients and they have sucrose, they have palm oil, they have coloring yellow, like yellow number 5, which is awful, or caramel color. So yes, you can look at the labels, but it's so important to realize that it all comes down to ingredients and it doesn't come down to calories, needless to say. So I think by moving
Mhm.
ourselves away from calories and being so obsessed with the ingredients, I know Tony Robbins says something like, he was interviewing someone and he said, if there's like you shouldn't buy something with like 5 or 6 more ingredients. And that's a bit hard. Like I've tried to do that, and it is hard,
Mhm.
especially in the Western world. There's a lot of fillers. And so it really comes down to whole foods. It does take time, more time than you do at a grocery when just grabbing stuff. It does take more
Mhm.
time, but at the end of the day, our gut health will be happy, our mindset will be happy. And I will also want to clarify as well as like, you can indulge in things. Like, I'm not saying you can never, our gut health is probably not going to be the best when you do grab an alcoholic drink, or you do go for a cookie or a cupcake or chocolate on Easter. But the good thing about this is, if you're living, I always promote an 80-20 lifestyle. So, looking at labels as good as bad, I don't like that, because I really think if we focus more on, okay, 80% of the week, I'm going to focus on fueling my good bacteria. And that 20% is really, I'm going to go out for supper and I'm going to enjoy myself, because it is life at the end of the day. We only live
Mhm.
once. So if we're always looking at labels as good and bad, we're kind of losing out on that whole experience of eating and just having fun, and those memories that are created with maybe a wine in our hand or with a chocolate cake in front of us. So that's
Mhm.
kind of my intake on labels.
Yeah, yeah, because I do feel like, okay, where is the enjoyment in it if you're
Mhm.
constantly thinking in your head and ruminating and through your thoughts, like, oh, what is going to happen? What are the consequences of me eating this? Or what
Mhm.
is the benefits of me eating this? And
Mhm.
I mean, going back to, you said like eat what makes you feel good.
Mhm.
And I feel like you'll understand that once you start eating different kinds of foods and really creating different recipes for yourself. It's almost like an experiment to see what you actually like and don't like. And then taking into account, okay, how is my body responding to this? And
Mhm.
saving those recipes for later. Because if you do feel good, if you do come out of it and feel so energized
Mhm.
and not like you want to just sit on the couch all day long because your tummy is hurting, then I think
Yeah.
those are the recipes that may be beneficial for you to keep on your in your recipe book that you continuously make and then share to your own kids and your grandchildren and on and so forth. So
Yeah, and it's as simple as, like, when you're on that, and I'm sure everyone's kind of had that journey of when they've kind of been, following what they eat and exercising and listening to the right people and all of these things. They kind of, for me on my wellness journey, when I'm totally zoned in onto it, I don't crave any bad or processed food. I'm literally craving salads or like fruits and veggies, like whole foods, whole grains, all of these things. So that's an alarm for my brain, is when I am craving those things. I'm like, oh, Vanessa, you are off balance. And that kind of triggers something in my mind, being like, okay, Vanessa, you've enjoyed yourself for a day or two. Let's go back onto that, that 80% lifestyle.
because I'm just kind of curious to know, does it become more addictive if you are continuously putting those sugary, more processed foods in your body?
Yeah, it becomes addiction, and almost you're turning it into a habit as well. So I'm always going
Mhm.
back to habits, but if we always have dessert after supper, or we always, after we come back from work and we go to the cabinet and grab a muffin or a cupcake or something, now you've turned it into a habit. So that's more
Mhm.
dangerous than being addicted to it, because it's very hard for humans to break their habit. So if you see yourself like, oh, I'm drinking 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and when I get home, I drink a cup of coffee, and then I have one after supper, you're not only addicted to those things, but now you've put a habit. And that's
Mhm.
like those pathways in your brain that you've now created, which is like, now you need to break and make a new one. So it's not as
Yeah.
bad as the addiction. It's as bad as now it's become a habit that you need to now break.
Yeah, because it's almost like when your example of going to grab the coffee and make your coffee, are you even aware of doing that? Probably not if it is becoming a habit
Yeah.
and you don't even have to think about it anymore. So it's definitely even that when you're grabbing certain snack food items, like what you're more drawn to is probably it can be a habit as well if you're constantly going and snacking for the cookies or the
Yeah.
chips, like depending on what you are drawn to. And I even noticed this in myself the other day. I was like, I have grapes and apples, and here I am grabbing more of the like salty foods or grabbing more of the
Ah,
sweet foods. And I was like,
yeah.
I even like forgot that I had the grapes and the apples in my fridge. I was like, maybe I need to start putting these out so that I could see them.
Yeah,
For
it's really
sure.
wild. It's like you have a full fridge, but you still want to go out to eat or take takeout. It's like, what? I don't, it's like your
Yeah.
brain is so powerful.
Right, right. I'm like, okay, I have all this stuff to make. I have this all this stuff to meal prep, but
Mhm.
then am I drawn to more of the easy route?
Mhm.
Going to the drive-through. It is easy,
Yeah.
but is easy always the best choice? So
Yeah. Yeah, I came up with a quote. I know it's not related, but it's like, nothing comes easy and no one wants nothing. So whenever I kind of follow myself going towards that easy route, I'm like, oh, Vanessa, like you versus you know, you have to be building your habits. So made me
Mhm.
think of that.
Yes. So I want to dive into putting ourselves first. So,
Yeah.
how can we start putting ourselves first on the list of our priorities?
Hmm. So for me, and like another thing that we've probably heard before is you really can't pour yourself from an empty cup. And I saw this video on YouTube, and I'm sure if you you know YouTube it, it's this woman. She's kind of stacks up all her cups in front of her. Like there's four at the bottom, three, two, and one, and she takes
Mhm.
a half full cup and she fills up the and she goes over the cups and she fills it up, and there's only one, one cup that gets filled, and then she fills up her whole cup and she pulls it down the onto the cups, and they all get filled. And I was like, that is so powerful, because yes, we've always heard that you can't fill things from an empty cup. What does that actually mean? What can we take away from that? And I thought of each cup as a priority that I have. That first cup, me; that second cup, my job, my business; my third cup, friends, family, my habits that I'm creating. If I'm not putting myself as a top priority, then I always bring it back to, I'm an elementary school teacher, so I always see parents coming back from, they're totally exhausted, and parents tend to put their work and their kids before themselves. And what
Mhm.
that does is, it teaches their kids that putting time aside for you is not important, and to drain yourself. And it also has your kids come home to, an exhausted parent who is just exhausted. And what does that do is just turning on the TV or watching the news. And so kids they're taught what they're caught. So if they're always,
Mhm.
watching their mom and dad doing these things, then they're going to catch up on these things. So putting ourselves first, putting a time on when you're going to go to bed, when you're going to wake up, the amount of days that you're going to go to the gym, meal prepping what you're going to do. You really need to have like your own, like I have it like my me schedule, and I set it up the night before, and I check throughout the day that I'm done it. And it really gives you that sense of like satisfaction that you're like, I'm putting myself, and it's not to be in a selfish way, like a lot of people are like,
Mhm.
it's a lot of me culture. It's like me. Millennials are very like me focused and all those things. And it's not more about, oh, I'm better than this person and I need to like focus on me. It's really like that cup scenario that I was sharing with you. The more that you
Mhm.
have, the more dance parties, the more meditation, the more food that you're eating that will fuel you, you'll be able to give your energy to someone else. Because I'm sure if I woke up after, I didn't get my sleep, I didn't eat the proper meal this morning, I didn't have our dance party, I didn't, drink my water, I would probably be on the Zoom like, meh, that I didn't prioritize myself. Because if I can't prioritize myself, I'm not giving any information or energy through this podcast, is what I really want. So you really need to
Mhm.
think of, yes, you're putting yourself first, but by putting you first, you're helping all the people around you.
So true, so true. And I even find that my mood does kind of slip into
Mhm.
down the mountain instead of up the mountain, if that makes sense. I
Yep.
mean, if I skip out on my morning routine, if I skip out on moving my body throughout the day, whenever my boyfriend comes home, I will be more snappy. I will be more on edge. And it has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with me because I was the one who
Mhm.
made those choices, and I'm almost kind of mad at myself for skipping out on them whenever I do find myself doing that, which I'm trying to definitely not take that path of skipping out because I definitely know
Yeah.
what it feels like to skip out. So
Yeah. And it almost feels worse, when you're like, oh, should I go to the gym? Like that feeling, then not going to the gym. Like I feel like it's the worst feeling of not going, not showing up, than actually just putting your shoes on and walking to the gym, kind of picking those battles. Like, oh, well, I don't want to deal with me not showing up to the gym and then having that guilty feeling towards it when I said I was
yeah.
going to go. I feel like that's even worse than like just fighting within your brain of like, should I go? Should I
Mhm.
not?
You never regret going to the gym. You always feel good afterwards.
Hmm.
You always feel good after eating a well-balanced meal
Yeah.
as well, too. So it goes hand in hand.
Love that. It's like, I know a lot of people are probably listening to this podcast, and a lot of times they're like, oh well, I just don't have the time for that, right? And it's really about making the time, because for me, so like life for me is like our work, everything that, from cooking to buying groceries to kids to work, that's just like life, right? That's what every
Mhm.
human does. But it's really on the times after life you do life? Like what are the times what are you filling in between those gaps? I think humans should be
Mhm.
doing so much more. Like I said, we're machines. Our brains are run as machines, as habits. So it's making the time after you've done the life things to put yourself and make yourself a priority, and fill up your cup. It's not having the time. It's like, will you make the time for that?
Yeah. And we have the power to do that. We have the power to create our own schedules because we're our
Mhm.
own individual person. And
Mhm.
it'll almost be like a little domino effect on, okay, if I am putting myself first, then everyone else is going to notice that. And they're going to be like, oh, what are you doing? You look so happy. You look so content right now. So I want to move into the diet culture. What are your thoughts about it?
So the diet culture, I was trying to like put a word to it. There's not really any word that I can do except for like it annoys me a lot. And I know that's not some sort of like, proper word that we can use to describe the diet culture. And the reason why it annoys me is it really puts stress on the consumer. And like I said, we're always being sold to. As humans, you're always being sold to by a company or a corporation. And so if we are giving our money to a company or a corporation that promotes, because diet culture for me promotes quick and easy rapid results. And
Mhm.
for me, we know, humans love microwave success. We love when things come fast. We love that TV turns on a click of a button, or we can find out what 80 times 10 million is on our calculator, or we can
Mhm.
figure out what's happening in anywhere of the world. We love that rapid success. So when a company or a corporation is their diet culture is all around promoting a product or a program that gives you quick rapid results, it annoys me, because what that will do is, yes, that human will see a result. They'll probably lose a lot of weight, right? They'll probably feel, I don't even think they'll feel better. They'll lose a lot of weight and they'll be happy with how they look, but it hasn't created any habit, because it's probably taken them 2 weeks to lose those pounds. So you haven't created a habit. And when they go back into that lifestyle, because that diet or product hasn't really told them how to change their lifestyle, or told them about gut health or habits, then that human, I say humans because it's man, woman, like anyone, we're always being sold to, is that they feel they're broken, and they feel that they aren't capable of living that life that they thought that product or that program was going to help them with. So they end up feeling like, well, nothing works for me. There's no point of going to the gym. There's no point of buying healthy foods, because I did that program last year or 2 years ago or last month. I lost the weight, but I gained it all back. So it annoys me in that way. It really shows the consumer that we don't have the control over it. They don't promote healthy habits focused on gut health.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's almost like, okay, do this. Here's the solution to
Yeah.
lose weight in 2 weeks or in a month. And then you're like, okay, well, what happens after that? Because if they're promoting losing 20 pounds in a month or 2 weeks, that's definitely not going to be healthy if you continue working on that program because okay, you're going to eventually be in the stage of like an eating disorder and
Mhm.
you're going to be on the verge of like being underweight.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's definitely not a long-term solution for sure.
And then that comes into, counting macros or counting calories or counting points. It's like, I won't commit to a program or I won't commit to a product if I can't use it my whole like if I can't incorporate it into a habit, because if I can't incorporate in a habit, then I'm going to forget about it. And then it also comes down to, can I use this product as a long term, because some of them are like stop after 7 days because it's like literally burning your inside. So that also is a trigger of like, well, what am I actually putting on my body? What am I actually fueling my body with? So if you can't,
Yeah.
it really creates those, a lot of, like I have TikTok and Instagram and I follow a lot of people who are into wellness and stuff, but it also creates that urge, that drive of, oh, she's doing this, so I should count points, or oh, she has this result, so I should take this product. But we're always being sold to. So that influencer might be, being told by the company, promote this pre-workout or promote this protein powder. And then you look at the ingredients, you're like, okay, but she obviously, I don't even know if she uses this, because if she was, all about wellness and gut health, I don't think she'd be promoting this product. So it comes down to really recognizing that we're always being sold to, and can we
Mhm.
diet culture, because diet just means food. So can we make a diet that is sustainable throughout our life that we can live that 80-20 lifestyle.
And that even makes me think of whenever you're saying counting the calories, counting the macros and all of
Mhm.
that. Have you ever seen the show Wife Swap?
No.
It's this super old show where basically two celebrity moms, they sometimes had celebrities, they
Okay.
switched houses,
Okay.
and they were usually the complete opposites.
Okay.
And there was this one mom who was really, really go with the flow. She kind of cooked here and there. And then this other mom who had a husband who was very, very strict on counting calories and all of that. And he would even count his carrots, like down to the nitty gritty, little bitty things, anything that he put in his mouth. And I was like, that is so extreme. So it even can be to the more extreme side as well. I feel like there's all these different, I guess, a scale, if you will,
Yeah.
of how on which side you're on. But I was always like, oh my gosh, when I saw that episode, because his son, they had a son too, he was going to grow up to have that need to
Yep.
count everything that he puts in his mouth as well. So I think the swap mom ended up kind of instilling in his mind, you don't have to count everything, you can
Mhm.
let loose and just eat whenever you're hungry, and not
Yeah.
have to take in all of that time to do that, because it obviously took him like, I don't know, maybe 20-30 minutes to do
Yeah.
that.
To weigh everything. That's wild.
Yeah, yeah. That's what it reminded me of. I just saw that episode a few days ago. I was like, oh my gosh.
Perfect timing.
So I know. How can we begin to heal the relationship with food? If there is some type of toxic relationship going on, how can we begin to move that to a more loving relationship, to a more healthy relationship with food?
I'm going to say time first because you really have to be patient and you really have to take the time. I started like 4 years ago and still to this day, I'll still have some things that like come into my mind or things that pop up. I'm like, this thing is testing me, or wow, this is like an old habit that's coming back into my mind. So people first need to be patient, because
Hmm.
even if I give you tips and tricks, like everything that you've taken from today, if you're not patient, if you're looking for quick and easy ways to get results, you're just going to get frustrated. So the first thing is just being patient. You've created these habits for years and years. I'm almost 27, I've had these habits for almost over 20 years now. So trying to break it in 1 or 2 months, it's not going to happen. 4 years in and these things still pop up in my mind. So one of them though being when I realized is when I was trying to break that kind of unhealthy relationship with food is once I realized like, okay, well, I need to eat healthy. I need to go to the gym. I need to count these points, all these things. And I just gave up what I love to do, which was to bake and to cook, because I thought for me, wellness was salads and you couldn't eat any sugar or like any sweets or anything that tasted good, you couldn't have. So I gave up
Hmm.
all of that. So when I was trying to fix my relationship with food, I would always break it because I'm like, well, this is boring. Like I can't do anything that I love. And so when you're trying to fix your relationship with food, see how you can, I started making, instead of brownies from the box, I started making like delicious avocado brownies with dark chocolate vegan chips.
Ooh.
Yeah, like I made protein balls, I made Twix bars with protein. Like I started doing things that I was always eating or wanted to eat, but I made it into a way where it wouldn't spike my blood sugar or it won't give me, these cravings or upset my gut in any way. So the first thing is if you want to fix your relationship with food is don't feel like you have to give up anything to see results.
Mm.
Start studying different ingredients. For me was buying cookbooks or having a whole Pinterest board on healthy foods. I'm obsessed with pre-making my food, and my pre-making is not chicken and broccoli like a lot of us will see on Instagram. It's really like Buddha bowls. I made like
Mm.
pad thai, kale pad thai. Like I have a bunch of yummy recipes that they almost tasted better than what I was making before in kind of like my pre-health wellness journey. And so it's
Mhm.
really just recognizing, right? Like your relationship with food is always going to be there. You're always going to be tested and triggered in different situations. But going back to that first question you asked me, something that you've kind of changed for you was recognize, what you are, what you eat. So I'm like, okay, Vanessa, I am what I eat. So I want to eat something colorful. I want to eat something delicious. I want to eat something organic, non-toxic, not wrapped in plastic because I don't want that plastic coming into my food, right? We have microplastics now in human body, which is crazy and scary. Who
Mm.
do I want to be, right? I don't want to be some sort of like colorless heavy like blob of something. Like that's not who I want to be. Like I want to be, I want to have all this confidence and all of these things. So I started like every time I picked up a fruit or something, going back to that question at the beginning of our podcast of your podcast, I am what I eat, and just giving that time to continue to make the things that I love, create a Pinterest board, even a vision board about your goals and where you want to be in a few months, and really understanding the ingredients at the end of the day and not the calories or the fats or the carbs.
Yes, I do totally agree with that. And almost taking that mindset of not focusing more on the looks, but focusing more on the feeling of how you want your body to feel, and then eating foods that make you feel how you want to feel
Exactly.
continuously. And I almost think of whenever you were saying, "Oh, do I want to look like this or be like this plastic wrapped food or something like that?" What was that? I
Like
forgot.
the kind of like clumpy, dark, like
Yes,
gooey. Yeah.
clumpy dark food. I almost thought of almost find that food whenever you're creating it and cooking it and baking. It's like an art. You can
Mhm.
create different shapes out of it, have different
Yeah.
colors, add in all of the, I mean, there's literally not every single color you could think of, but a good range of colors.
Yeah.
So, and then we ourselves are art, our bodies are art. So, really taking into that account too is your food is art, you are art, and you're beautiful as you are. And you can actually eat foods and create something really beautiful and then eat it. And so it's like a, I don't know, a little cycle, eating things that are
Yeah.
beautiful and then feeling beautiful from the inside out.
And kind of like playing on that art thing, like you're not gonna, if you want to like, paint the next Mona Lisa, you're not gonna take a brush that you'd paint your house with to paint it. You'd go and fine print and pick the best tool that you can create that painting with. And that's for you, the foods, the exercise, the people you hang out with, the things that you are learning, that all comes into play with your relationship and your wellness journey.
Now, I would love to know, what can we do about body shame or food shame?
Yeah, I'm like such a quote person, so I know I'm just like saying a bunch of quotes, but I teach my kids this too, is I always say, hurt people and heal people. And so I take it as if someone took the time to come on my page and, comment about who I am as a person, or comment on my body shape, or comment about the food that I'm eating, they're really just showing me what's hurting them inside. Their hurt comes from their hate that they have within themselves, like, because usually when we're annoyed with someone, or we hate on someone, it's something that's reflected back on us. So
Mhm.
it kind of like overflows on that. And I always say, like, I've had a business for over 4 years now, and I will never take business advice from someone not in the business. So if you're on your wellness journey, or if you feel like people are commenting on your photos, or body shaming you, or food shaming, or like, why are you eating that, or you shouldn't eat this, blah blah blah, just think of it like, okay, do they have the lifestyle or the body or the mindset that I want to have? And if it's no, then you block them, you delete the comment, you kind of erase that, because don't take advice from people who have what you don't want, if
Mhm.
that makes sense in any way. And just not letting them become the main character in your story. Like, if you're on your journey and if you're really loving what you're doing and you're really enjoying what you're doing, don't have someone else question that for you.
Yes, yes. And it's almost like not taking everything to heart,
Yeah.
because like you said, it's something that's going on with them. It's not about you at all. If they
Mhm.
are making you feel worse about yourself or making you feel just really not good at all,
Mhm.
that's something that they have to deal with.
Mhm.
It's a they thing, not a you thing.
Mm-mm.
It can be hard too when,
Mhm.
if you're the type of person to really rely on others for that
Mhm.
sense of love
Yeah.
or sense of acceptance, and letting that go can be really hard. But once you start to do that, it's really powerful, because it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you or comments that they have about you, because you have a strong foundation within yourself, and you know your worth, you know that you are loved, you know that you are enough as you are. So,
And I love how you said that, because my kind of routine on my Instagram and social media at the beginning of my wellness routine, I really, shared with foods that I was eating, and yeah, posting a lot of foods I was eating, working out, all of these things. And the thing that came to my mind was, I always got comments from friends being like, Vanessa, you're already like skinny. And what is skinny? You don't need to be watching what you eat. You don't need to go to the gym. And I was like, this is so toxic. Like, who said that being skinny is healthy? Like, I know the skinniest people, let's say, weight wise, and they eat the worst, the worst food. So we have this kind of barrier of like what the outer, what they look like is how their inside as well. And it's like, no, like your outer can be a total opposite to what your gut is. And so for people to be
Yeah.
like, oh, you don't need to watch your food, you don't need to go to the gym because you're already skinny. I was like, really? Is that why we're eating healthy and going to the gym is for how we look? Like I'm trying to live as long as I can. So that's not why I'm going to the gym or eating
Yeah.
healthy. I'm trying to be on this planet for as long as that I can.
I do love that too. And it's crazy that you said that because I even was on my Instagram stories. And I don't know if you've heard of this teacher, Joe. Uh, I'm, her last name is not ringing a bell, but she goes to the gym regularly, and she had just a comment the other day saying, "You're too skinny," and what are you doing here? And she even said, "Oh well, I've been working for the last 10 years to not be skinny." Like she wants to be strong, not
Mm,
skinny, and then to have somebody comment that about her, like that just kind of took her
yeah.
the wrong way. And she did say something to the person. She didn't let that slide and pretended like it didn't happen or just please them and be like, oh yeah. She actually went out of her way to speak her voice of truth and set boundaries and be like, you know what? It's not really appropriate, and it's not something along the lines of, okay, your opinions about my body should be like kept in your mind. Like you don't need to like speak and put thoughts and beliefs about my body to me because they're my own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like unnecessary opinions that people kind of voice. And then we're like, oh, and then we have it in our mind. And then
Yeah. How do you stay motivated on the days where you don't feel like putting in any effort or time?
mhm. I'm like the queen of being motivated all the time, but I've realized why I'm always motivated all the time is because I've realized that you're only motivated 3 days out of the month. So that's not a lot. That's like what 36 or something days out of the year. And so what I've
Wow.
realized is it's not about motivation, it's about inspiration and it's about knowing where you're going. So if you're waiting to be motivated to eat healthy, go to the gym every single day, you're not. I'll want to go to the gym maybe, yeah, twice or 3 times a month. I'll be like, yes, I'm going to the gym. The other days, I do not want to be there. I feel like I can be doing something else better with my time. So, what I've, helped with me, and maybe this will help someone listening, I hope, is get rid of motivation and look for inspiration. So, recognize every single morning there's a reason why the snooze button is a lot bigger than the stop button. We are meant to just, live out our life and go through life daily and recognizing that it's you versus you. Write out your schedule the night before, like I said, and then go throughout the day and like, okay, I did this, I did this, I did this. I even set alarms throughout the day. So if I said I was going to the gym at 2, I have an alarm set at 1:30 because I should be getting my butt out that door. If I said at 10 I'm going to be doing something for my business, or I'm going to be creating content for my business, or I'm supposed to be, I don't know, doing something. You should see the alarms. I have alarms every single day to make
Mm.
sure that I'm on task. I have vision boards, I have post-it notes every around my day. So I'm constantly in that wave and that mentality of where I'm going. And it's also is keeping accountability partners. So one of my friends even said, and I don't know if anyone could do this because it might not work at your gym, but he said, I have this big goal for me since the beginning of 2022 is I'll go to the gym 5 days a week. And I've told, my trainer and the owner of the gym is
Mhm.
these are the days that I should be at the gym. And if I don't give them a week ahead of time that I can't be there, they text me. And if I'm not there, they text me and say, well, where are you? And they're not close to him, they're not friends with him. So they don't mind being like, why aren't you here? Like you gave up on kind of giving that like tough love to him.
Yeah.
So he's like, I feel if I don't go to the gym and having these random people like go out of their day to message me, I'm like, well, I'm inconveniencing them. So I need to be there. And little things like that, having those accountability partners. I was listening to a podcast and he said, have 10 accountability partners where if you're going to the gym, he had those people at the gym, he had his girlfriend, he had, his gym partners at the gym. He had things that he was counting like protein wise. So he had to go to the gym to keep his all these crazy things. So like keeping yourself accountable and having 10, lines of people to keep you accountable for your goals, because you're not going to be motivated. And if you want to do something, you can't really do it alone. You need other people to kind of keep you motivated or keep you inspired. And that could just be a podcast. That could be you downloading podcasts and every single morning listening to one while you get ready for work. So those are kind of some ways that I've stayed motivated or disciplined on my journey.
Yes, yes. And I even felt that this morning. I mean, you're not going to get up every morning feeling the same way.
No.
So it's realizing and recognizing that and understanding that, okay, but you can do something about that. If you don't feel as motivated as you did a week ago or even yesterday, okay, what can you do to, like you said, feel more inspired, feel more energized to move forward with your dreams, to move forward with your goals, and show up for yourself every single day. So what advice do you have to bring about more balance to our lives?
Hmm. Okay, so people might like hate me on this part, but I believe that there's no such thing as balance. So I am a firm believer that there's no such thing as balance. And because I feel like the two things that people are always trying to balance is their life and work. And for me, if I had to balance one, it's always going to be work. Like, who just wants to balance life and work? Come on, like, it's 2022. We have so many amazing things that we can be doing, traveling the world. There's no one out there that's going to be like, I choose work every single day and I want to balance my life with, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So first of all, I don't believe in balance. And also I was reading a book from the COO of Facebook, and she was saying, especially women, we have this idea of we need to be balanced, because how many movies have, and it's the movie always comes to mind is The Shopaholic, or The Life of a Shopaholic. And she's trying to do all these things, like the girlfriend, she has a business or a job, she's doing all these things, and she always has all her bags and she looks like a complete mess. And I feel like all of those movies always have a woman trying to do a bunch of things and she's a complete mess. You've never seen a woman in a role in a movie where she is on top of her game and she has a full schedule. We only see women who have control over the schedule when they're maybe stay at home and they maybe have a few girl nights out like that, and then they're like, oh yeah, they're relaxed and stuff. So women have this picture already that they should not strive or go after or fill up their schedule, because they're going to be this crazy woman with one shoe on, their pants reverse, their shirt reverse, and we're scared. Like, I honestly think women are scared to fill up their schedule and have this balance. So for me, I just don't think that there's a balance, but there is. I feel like my life is jam packed and I love that. When people are like, you're so busy, Vanessa, I'm like, thank you. I'm here to live out my life. Like, you're only here to live once. We've heard that so many times, but are you actually, jamming pack your schedule so you live out once? But if you're always trying to micromanage things, you're trying to see ahead of the future before it is and trying to control things before they happen, you're really just going to exhaust yourself. And the balancing part for me is I always choose life. So if you want to look for a balance, maybe just understand right now, if you kind of get in this loop or your schedule's crazy, just being like, well, Vanessa said there's no such thing as balance. And if I'm putting out what I really want to do, then that's fine with me. And we shouldn't strive to have balance. I know it's probably not something you maybe wanted to hear, but that's personally like what I have as, how can we have more balance in our lives? I just don't think there is any. And if there is something, we should always be having, we should unbalance our life. Like, we should have more life and less work, or more of what we love and less of what we don't love, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's almost like pertaining to your values, like what is truly important to you, and then have that be the forefront. And I did think of a book, I think it's Girls Stop Apologizing by Rachel Hollis. She was saying that exact same thing, that, oh, we have this idea in our mind where we actually can balance our work life, relationships and social life, all of that, but there really is truly no balance. So I I do agree with you on that one. I just wanted to see if your thoughts about it, about balance. And I mean, as we move through our lives, there's going to be different phases of our lives, right? And during those different phases, work may be at the forefront. If you're starting a new career, if you're retiring, you may find time more to relax more or travel more. Or, I mean, you don't have to travel more when you retire. You can do that and while you're young, but it's really up to you, like what you prefer to do, and then have that be at the forefront. but then always making sure that you're putting yourself first, like your needs are actually keeping in mind your needs and what
Mhm.
you need to feel nourished
Yeah.
and whole.
Yeah, exactly. Like that doesn't mean like your life is so chaotic. Like my life is not chaotic. I'm busy, I'm productive. I realized I don't have time to maybe cook all the healthiest meals that I want to. So now I've hired a service that delivers pre-made food to me that's healthy from a local
Oh,
restaurant. So those are some things. I still go and get, my massages, and I go to the spa, and I have my glass of wine, and I have all these things, but that's not just what my life is. Like I also have those crazy days where I'm grinding and hustling, but then I have those off days as well. So it's kind of a whole bounce, but I have my schedule. I know I'm not just going throughout the day. I guess I could do that. I guess I could do it. No, it's like Monday you're doing this, Vanessa. Sit down, set your alarms, do it. Tuesday you're doing this, and then I have something to look forward. Maybe Saturdays, I usually go to the spa, so or a massage. Like I usually look forward to those things. But I'm also looking forward to my hustle because I know what I'm doing right now is going to build that future life for me, as chaotic as it is.
hmm. Now, I would love to know, where can listeners connect with you, Vanessa?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram account, Vanessa's Voyage. So VANESSASVOYAGE, Vanessa's Voyage. And then I have a twin. So I'm a twin. So I have a TikTok with my twin sister called Tea with Twins. And instead of an S, since it was already taken, it's with a Z. So those are like some two places that you can find me.
Amazing. Make sure to go follow her accounts. And my last question I have, it's really a signature question to wrap everything up. And I ask all of my guests this: what does it mean to blissfully bloom?
Mhm. Blissfully for me and bloom, like putting them together, I think it's so fun because blissful for me is really just, that moment where like even right now, like I have the sun kind of on me, like that really like sun's on you, you're just like relaxing, you're doing those things. That's like one of my main goals that I have in life is like one moment of the day, I'm sitting in the sun and I'm just doing something for myself. And blissfully to me means just like extreme, or I guess to everyone, it's extreme happiness. Like that, I was looking up the definition. I was like, what does it actually mean? And so it's extreme happiness. So like that, when you're sitting in that sun, that lawn chair, just focusing on you, just having the best life, and you kind of have that moment where like I'm living just literally my best life right now, but it's also allowing you to bloom. So it's like enjoying those little times that you put on yourself, and knowing that, like we mentioned this whole podcast, you're working on yourself, you're filling up your cup, you're doing what's necessary, but you're not stressed on when you'll bloom. You're not stressed when you'll get that paycheck that you're looking for, or you'll get that bonus, or you'll get that raise, or you'll get that promotion, or you'll get those, the six pack if that's something you're striving for, a gym goal that you're trying to hit. So for me, it's really like enjoying those moments, being extremely happy with where you're going because you're doing the work, but you have no timeline for your goals. You have no timeline to like your bloomingness of when you'll kind of explode. So that's kind of something that how when you said those two words, I'm like, okay, that's like the picture. I'm like, I'm doing my work, I'm in the sunshine, I'm hustling, I'm grinding, I'm also putting myself in self-care, but I also have no timeline because I'm going to continue doing this until I get what I said I was going to do way before, like 4 years ago. So that's something that I really thought of.
Well, beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much for coming on the show today. I absolutely had so much fun having you on the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Victoria. Like it means a lot. And I hope some people grab some nuggets and start adapting it into their lives and just, changing daily little habits that they're creating for themselves.
Yes, thank you.